Hi, I'm Taylor Ferber, host of the Cancel Me Baby podcast, and you are watching EA Interviews.
EA Interviews, episode 415.
Inspiration, transformation, success stories, and the imperfect action round. 7 days a week. Join Mario Ficini for today's Expert Authority Effect interview.
Expert Authority World, have I got a treat for you? Have you wanted to interview someone that is fun and just... I see you. So I have one of the coolest guests on the show for today, and she has interviewed some of the biggest names in the industry, and I think it's cool. I gotta be honest, I think it's cool when you see the people she's interviewed. Like, one of them is Oprah, and I joke about all the time when I have Oprah on the show and this and that, and who's your dream guest and yada yada yada. I'm talking all this stuff. She's actually interviewed these people. There's this whole laundry list of over here, and I'm not even gonna try them all because there's hundreds of them. She's the host of the Cancel Me Baby podcast. She does red carpet interviews like nobody's business, but what really caught my attention with Taylor is how she gets so real and raw with people. Not only being raw and real with them, with celebrities on the red carpet for stuff you probably would get in trouble saying anywhere else in life, which is all the more reason we're going to say it and turn up that volume and say it louder. I'm excited to bring to you Taylor Ferber right after we thank our sponsor. Every business needs a book, including yours. And that's why I'm launching my new book to help you regardless of where you think your current writing abilities are. Visit eapublishingmethodbook.com today to learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. Once again, that's eapublishingmethodbook.com. Here she is, ladies and gentlemen, the lovely Taylor Ferber. Taylor, how are you feeling today?
I mean, after that intro, Mario, I am excited. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Let's go. Thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate it. I was trying to do my best, but seriously, you have such an impressive resume with everyone you've talked to. I was like, I'm not going to try to name even 5 of them because how many people would you say you even interviewed? It's well over 50 or 100. Best I
It
can
has to be well over 100. And it's funny because when I first started in the business, little naive, wide-eyed Taylor, I worked at MTV in Times Square. I thought it's a sweet idea now in hindsight, but I was starting to make a list. And the first person I interviewed, do you remember the band The Wanted?
Yeah.
Okay, like a one-hit wonder band. I interviewed one of the band members from The Wanted, and I was so nervous. I like blocked out a conference room. I made a friend come. It was over the phone. And who would have thunk it that, cut 2 years later, it would be, Michael Douglas and, like you said, Oprah, and the list goes on and on. So at least 100, yeah. And when people ask me, because it's been such a, like you said, a laundry list, I always say it's like when they're like, who's the best? Who's the worst? I always say it's like picking the favorite meal that you have ever had, right? Like,
Yeah.
how could you possibly? Because in your mind, they just blend together.
Yeah, like Timothy Chalamet.
Yes. Yes.
When you were talking with him, it was like he's cool, and then I check out something else. It's like they're cool, and then these other people are cool, and there's some people I literally just saw like today getting ready. I'm like, you're kidding me.
Yeah.
So who is your favorite? Top 3.
Top 3. Well, one that always sticks out in my mind is who I just said is Michael Douglas. So what I did was I was a red carpet correspondent for sites like New York Magazine, Us Weekly, etc. And I had the access, but I hated the like bland vanilla questions or the gossip site tabloidy questions we had to ask. So I thought
Who
to
are you
myself,
wearing?
don't even get me started. So like major gag. So I thought I have this access. I put my entrepreneurial cap on and I launched my own site and I went out on the red carpet with a selfie stick. So it was really disarming because it got them. It wasn't that like uptight, polished e-news with the microphone and the camera guy with the headphone. No, it was like me with a selfie stick and they could just totally be. And Michael Douglas was totally caught off guard. He was like, "What is happening here? Is this a photo? Is this a video?" And he literally grabs my nose like your grandpa would at Christmas. And he and I are joking back and forth. And he's like, "I got your nose." And I say, like, I literally grab his hand. I'm like, "I got it back." And just what a moment. So a brief moment in time, but one that I don't know if another red carpet correspondent has experienced Michael Douglas in this way. So yes, that's definitely up there. Also, top three. I mean, you said it, like Oprah, just because it's Oprah. I
Yeah.
mean, come on. And the funny, we got a story for everything here, right? For your listeners. So, because we're going to teach them about how to do this and how to be really in the moment and get these raw moments, right? That no one else gets. So
And
with Oprah,
be fearless about it too.
be totally fearless because they'll meet you there. So with Oprah, I interviewed her when she was promoting A Wrinkle in Time, and sitting next to her is Reese Witherspoon and Mindy Kaling. And I interviewed them in what's called a junket, which is a very, again, uptight, stiff. You're in a dark room with a million publicists and Disney people, entourage, the whole thing. It's very intimidating. And so I sit down across from them, and I didn't realize, I thought I was wearing this cute little skirt, and I didn't realize with the camera sitting view, they kind of give you those director chairs to sit in, that
Okay.
I would basically be flashing them. And so what do? But I acknowledge it. And I sit down with them and I say, "I'm sorry, ladies, but I didn't think this outfit through. And basically I'm flashing you." And it's really funny. Reese Witherspoon is like, "That's okay." Oprah's jaw like falls on the floor. She doesn't even know what to say. Like, what do you do when Oprah has nothing to say? So it was a pretty funny moment, and again, one that is definitely for the books. That I don't know if Disney has recovered since. Someone go check on them. Yes.
So I want to ask you before, I mean, you're already given so much good insight. You said something, and I didn't want to interrupt you,
Okay.
but you said Michael Douglas on the red carpet. I was a correspondent. I
Yes.
didn't want to do another interview like everyone else. So I just took my selfie stick and you just waltzed up there.
So I was very savvy about it at
Okay.
first.
I was going
What
to
I
say how. How do you just
Yes.
get on the red carpet with a selfie stick?
Well, first of all, this is a tip, Hollywood or not, that I learned very quickly in the business is no matter what business you are in, like if you, number one, act like you belong somewhere, nobody is going to F with you. So that's number one. But yes, no, Mario, I just waltzed in being like, "Is this where I park my car?" and talk to Michael Douglas. No, I would be on assignment.
Valet?
Exactly, exactly. I think I left my sweater here. My mom's sweater vest is somewhere. So no, but I was a correspondent for sites like Us Weekly and Vulture. And while I kind of double dipped, so while I was there for those outlets, I would kind of like whip out my selfie stick with, time to kill and do my own thing too. And then once I got to doing it a lot, I was starting to get really, tight with the big, the publicists and the people running these events. So then soon enough, I was covering stuff for my own site. So it was a little bit of both. Yeah.
Wow.
But
Okay.
making lemonade. Making
Good for you.
lemonade. Yeah.
You just said it so nonchalantly, like, well, I didn't want to do the official thing, so I'm like,
Yeah.
hold on, there's a story in there. But you know what? I can honestly not you're jogging my memory a little bit. It's been a minute, but I have modeled and acted before, and I remember one of the photos. I've always loved photography and video, and I remember being the model with a model. We were doing a beach shoot, and she came down from Brentwood. I was in town in San Diego. Actually, don't. So I was actually managing one thing while I was doing this other thing, and then I guess the third layer would be the photographer was shooting the both of us, but I brought a camera, so then I shot her. So I was like double booking the shoot that I had double booked for the event that they flew me out for.
Oh.
So
Huh.
I believe you can just. It's just been a minute since I did
Nah,
something.
but wait a second. Let's see your model face, Mario. I'm trying to see like a
What, you
pose,
want blue steel?
Let's see it. Oh, okay. Zoolander moment over here. No. Yeah, I definitely jerry-rigged it in the beginning for sure. I mean, like I said, I was a editor producer at VH1 and MTV in Times Square
Mm-hmm.
when I first started out. And I knew that this is what I wanted to do. But I'm a firm believer that if no one's going to give you your shot, you have to just do it. So, do you know what I did, Mario
Tell me.
and listeners? I straight up took a VH1. I found a microphone and like the cube that goes around it that says VH1 or whatever it is, right? Exactly. Yep, beautifully displayed here. And I took it literally out of a storage closet, hired like my cousin to go on red carpets and just kind of like would fake it until I like fake it till you make it. And once I moved to LA, same thing. I would go out like with a VH1 microphone. I kind of told my bosses like I'm going to this event with or without you, so let's roll. And that's how it started. So I took matters, took it by the balls, took matters into my own hands. So sometimes you got to just do what you got to do.
Wow, good for you.
Thank you.
I've thought about that, getting another one of these for a handheld mic simply because I wouldn't want to take it on and off because it's too much work. But um, before I had this one, I had made one. I just got the plastic cube and went to Kinko's and printed something off. And I don't think I've ever publicly said this, but the first either 10, 20, or 30 episodes of the show, it was very similar looking, and no one in 400 plus episodes has been like, oh, I noticed that you switched this, and that was the
Yeah.
Kinko's version, and that's the pro version.
It's funny because we get caught up as creatives and producers and hosts, like we get caught up in these details. Even doing the selfie stick on the red carpet, it was very risky, number one, because of how I was doing it. It was unlike what anyone was doing and what I would talk to these people about, like really pulling back the curtain. But I used to be, and still even sometimes, because it's so out of the box, like I'd be so insecure about it. Like, are they going to
Why?
think it's crazy? Because I just knew like they sometimes would really be into it. But again, we have their entourages and it's all these barriers to break through, right? You have like the networks, the event people, like it's just a line. Like you think it's just me and Michael Douglas, and really there's a swarm of a million people around. And it was so unlike anything. And so I always, and sometimes I would get slapped on the wrist by publicists afterwards, being like, what do you think you were doing? It's a very controlling business too. But sometimes, like, it took work to own it and be like, no, this is what I do. And it's out of the box. And I know it's not the legitimate, Access Hollywood setup, but, take it or leave it. So, it took time. It took time to own it for sure.
I find that so refreshing because you had the confidence and courage to just go up there and start doing, but you still had that reservation that everyone has. And right before we started, I was joking with you about there's people that ask me about starting shows or publishing their book or whatever the case is. And I'm like, you just have to, like, at some point decide you're already there and just do it. And so often
Yeah.
people think that they're not ready, they're not at the right place, it's not perfect, the planets don't align, whatever. They put the milk on the wrong side of the bowl for breakfast, whatever the case is. And they always have this self-doubt.
Yeah.
And I was like, why don't you just reach out to the people you know that are qualified and this and that? It's like, well, what if they say no? I'm like, dude, it's your cousin.
You
And
know,
you're sharing some of this, but you're talking to what did I say? Some of the highest, not ranking, but most well-known people around the world. What's the difference
yeah.
between them and John Q. Public? And should we be scared of any of them? Oh, that was good.
I mean, in the end, no. And listen, I've been in this business and I've been doing this for 10 years. And since we're all about being raw and honest here, just making up my own words now, I still sometimes, like when I shoot down to do a show of my podcast with somebody who's huge, I still get little butterflies. Like, again, it takes work. But I think if you just be right exactly, it's like the Oprah skirt thing. Like if you just be exactly where you're at and you don't try to, we're in such a filtered, world and such a everyone's trying to construct everything perfectly and look so perfect, and it's not real life. And so people will match you there. I mean, I never gave you a third favorite, but this example fits perfectly into this. Like, this is exactly what I mean. I'm sure you and your audience have heard of Chris Pratt, right?
Yes. And I
Okay.
wanted to tell you, when I saw your sizzle reel clip, I actually watched the Guardians of the Galaxy clip, and it was like, oh, this is good. And I saw that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember this. Like, just seeing
Yes.
it.
So this is what, like, to your point about, okay, this big A-list untouchable celebrity and Joe Schmo, right? In the end, we're all Joe Schmo people. Like, everybody's Joe Schmo. So again, another junket for Avengers, big deal at this big swanky LA hotel. And I'm sitting waiting to talk to Chris and Zoe Saldana. They have you kind of like, it's very awkward, almost like an airport, like you're waiting to board. Like, you're sitting there in the waiting room, right? And they call you up and then you go. And sure enough, right before I go in to sit with them, Chris leaves to take like a bathroom break. So we all sit down, he comes back, we sit down, and they're like, okay, Taylor, we're rolling. And the first thing I say to Chris is, how is your pee break? Like, you wash your hand, like, we're good to wash hands, to shake hands, right? Like, we're good. Like, and he totally met me where I was at. He's like, it was good, but I hate it when you're in a stall and you really have to fart and there's someone next to you and you have to hold it in, like, getting all into it. Next thing I know, Zoe Saldana is like, I know, that's the worst. So it just was hilarious. And he's like, yes, my hands are clean, freshly washed. Like, it just, again, was
Just
so
lean into it.
hilarious. Lean into it and stop trying to filter everything, because it doesn't work. People read right through that, So there you go. Case in point, you can even get Chris Pratt, one of the biggest Marvel superstars in the world, to talk about, farting in a, bathroom. So there you go.
So let me talk to you about reaching out to them. So you had access before, but you're still in. It sounds like that was a couple of years ago.
Yes.
You're still bringing big name people on your show even recently, because I checked the
Yes.
last couple of weeks last. How are you doing it now that you're not in LA? Congrats again on the move.
Thank you. Yes, new Nashville resident, 1 week in. And by the way, we were saying this off air, but I normally shoot 2-3 times a week. It's a little, I've been out of it because I've been out of the move. And this is we are popping the Nashville cherry. This is my first shoot in my new place. So at EA, this is how we roll. So it's a celebratory moment. No, but
Well,
I
this is
still
why I
get,
was excited to have you on and share, because whether someone wants to do a big production show or they just I know people that don't even really want to do a show. They just want to interview a series of 5 or 10 interviews for like a summit or a webinar or just a
right.
authority building piece for their book or whatever the case is. And I'm like, you're so fantastic at it, and you have such a unique perspective at it that it's cool on the red carpet. But what's even more,
Yeah.
I don't say more impressive, it's all impressive, but now you're still doing it. And even now, you willingly admitted, I moved, this is my first one back. You're not skipping a beat. And that's the thing, when it's part of you,
Yeah.
it's not like, oh, well, do you want to reschedule because I don't know if your energy is high enough. Like, are you kidding me? You're awesome.
No, you know what? It goes back to the cubed my VH1 mic out of the storage closet. Same thing goes for reaching out and getting interviews. You have to be aggressive. You have to, because nobody's going to do it for you. Like I always say, if you want something done, you have to do it yourself. So for me, it's a mix. And yes, Mario has a question for the class. I see his
I
hand
do.
raised.
How can I find someone to be aggressive so I can just do the fun part?
When you find them, let me know. I will give you my beeper carrier pigeon information,
Hey, I say
because
carrier pigeon. You have a beeper?
I wish in my dreams, if I could, I would. But I know that's what it is. That's the entrepreneurial grind. It's a full-time 24/7 job. So in many ways, now, and thank you for saying that it's more impressive, because it's 10 times harder now than it was. Because then I had, I'm here for Us Weekly, I'm here for THR. Now I'm here for myself. I'm representing myself. So you have to work and prove yourself 10 times harder. So say I still am in the loop somewhat. I'll get invites for different, when movie stars are promoting movie, whatever it is. And instead of just submitting a request and going, hey, I'd love to interview them for Us Weekly, I have to go, I've done this. I'm a former red carpet reporter. Here's why you want this person on my show. Because they don't necessarily know. So I have to sell it and go the extra mile and say, here's why, because it's going to be an interview experience like no other. Here are people in my audience, the movers and shakers in the business, and here's who I've had. That's really impressive. So you really have to, and then for times when I don't get those invites, I will find a way. Like, I will DM them. I will find their assistant. I pay the yearly IMDb Pro account. Like, I will just do what it takes. And I have
Have
some
you ever
crazy
used
stories
Contact
there
Any
too.
Celebrity?
What's that?
Have you ever used Contact Any Celebrity?
I haven't, but that definitely sounds intriguing.
Okay.
Huh.
So is there anything else other than IMDb Pro
Just
or
pounding the
Hero?
pavement, getting to them in any way that you can.
What about Hero?
I've never heard of that.
Help a reporter out?
Oh, that's cool.
Really?
I'm probably putting myself through more hoops than I need to because I'm so old school, but
Helpareporter.com.
okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So this just got real intriguing to me because there's things I've known about, and I don't know. Maybe I'm lazy or just scared in the past. I don't know. Pick one. Well, if we could just spin a wheel,
Mm-hmm.
it's one of them.
Oh,
Oh, dang it! I shouldn't have done that so close. What the heck?
readily
Uh,
available wheel. Love it.
yeah. Spoiler alert for later. But there's things I've known about, but this is what I've said to all my clients for decades. You can know about something, but until you implement it, it's pointless. You've implemented it, and two of those three, it looks like you just learned about. I knew about them. I had a subscription to one. I don't think I reached out to a single person. So my first year of the show, I'm like, the first 10 people,
Wow.
I'm like, let's contact Oprah. Probably a little afraid at that point. I got past the first year, still haven't reached out to her, but
But
yeah, there's resources you can get subscriptions to other than IMDb that are just.
cool.
I
And it's
thought you'd really know about Harrow. The other one is maybe a little bit more marketing industry, but
okay, maybe, yeah. I kind of just go rogue and like everything else, and just kind of, you know, boots on the ground, kind of get in there, find the right person. If there's someone I want, reach their publicist, their manager, convince them why they should come on my show. But also I think a big part of it too is that idea you said before of how so many people get in their head about, is this the right time? I'm not ready. And you literally, if not now, then when? So here's another great story. It was just in like the bulk of the pandemic, and I was feeling really down and out. I felt like the rug had been pulled out from under me in LA, and I was working on my show day after day, being like, nobody's listening, like, what, just on the grind. And I'm in a Starbucks, and this guy comes up to me and is looking at my show, not in a creepy way. And he starts looking at my show, and he's like, I love this. He's like, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners have heard of David Meltzer, who's a
mm-hmm.
huge, yes, sports, he was a sports agent, almost like a Tony Robbins self-help type figure, right? So he's like, I feel like you and David would really hit it off. So I reached David, and David has this rule. It's a I think it's a 5-10 rule. He does 5-minute phone calls, and I think 10-minute interviews tops. And it's all like, it's like really that entrepreneurial mindset of maximizing your time. So I was so nervous for this. I was like, how on God's green earth, again, I'm kind of like down and out. I'm in pandemic funk. I feel like I have to kind of pick myself up and move my career forward. I'm out of practice. How do I convey my message and what I do to this man in 5 minutes. I was so nervous. And it ended up, we had a call. There's a story there in and of itself, but we ended up forming a friendship. And now, almost a year later, he and I are friends. We'll text. He will literally come on my show at the drop of a hat. No joke. He literally was just on my show to talk about Deshaun Watson and the chaos with Me Too in the NFL. But the story goes, just to say, you never know, and you never know how like the events will unfold, and you have to just put yourself out there, because again, what do you have to lose, you know?
Okay, you're right.
For real. Do you know? Okay, here's another one. I love Barstool Sports. Dave Portnoy, another one I'm sure figure your fans and your listeners are familiar with, right? Founder of Barstool, very successful. So right when the pandemic started, I pitched my show to Dave Portnoy on Zoom. And it didn't go well. Let's just say it's not that it went bad, but I was like, I don't think I'm getting a show on Barstool. Like, it's not going to happen. Never heard from him. I was like crushed, devastated. I thought this was like my ticket on the way out. Cut to a year later, I ended up writing an op-ed because he was in the news for Me Too stuff. And I wrote an op-ed about it, and it caught his attention.
No kidding.
He ends up like DMing me, and in a crazy, it's like David Meltzer 2.0, in something I could have never predicted. He ends up, again, going for it. I just asked him on DM. I'm like, why don't you come on my show and talk about it? And Mario, I almost didn't, because I was like, I don't want to be rejected. I didn't even know if he had put 2 and 2 together that he didn't pick up my show a year prior for Barstool. But he said, yeah, let's do it. And it was a result better than what I had originally wanted. Like, Dave Portnoy, who never goes on podcasts, came on my show, gave me an hour of his time, promoted the hell out of it. Like, I will take that and his respect for my platform than him just like willy-nilly picking up a show of mine. So you have, and even for that, the night before I interviewed him, I didn't sleep a wink. I literally didn't sleep. So, but was that going to stop me? No, I had to perform, and I had to do it the next day. So you have to just go.
Talk to me about branding, because I noticed something, noticed a couple of things you've done and you're still doing as we speak, literally.
What, Mario? I'm curious.
Have you always had Cancel Me Baby podcast?
Have I always had it?
Yes.
No, so my site Talk to Me with the selfie interviews, that I think turns 6 this next month. My show it actually started out, it was a different form. I actually had a co-host. It had a different name. And then it ended up becoming my own thing, and I rebranded and had a little bit of an overhaul. But I think my show is 2 years. Don't quote me on this.
Okay. So what I was getting at, and it may have been a little bit more cryptic than it was supposed to be for anyone listening.
Yeah, geez, I'm sweating.
Yeah, see, I gotta interview the interviewer. If I can't make you a little uncomfortable, then I didn't raise my game enough.
Exactly.
You started off one way on red carpet, and you had said something to me about I launched my show, but it was a little bit different. So talk to me about the branding, or I should say the rebrand, and maybe even the pivot, because I think there's a good amount of people out there that have great content, and like such great content. Actually, I know there are, because I'm thinking of about a dozen, and there's a couple, 2 or 3 that I've told multiple times they should do XYZ with their show, their books, their brand, marketing stuff. They have such great content, but they're like, I don't know if it'll translate well over here. And they're afraid to like just tweak it. Literally, it's just a stupid tweak. It's usually a Photoshop graphic. But when you realized I'm doing something a little bit different, you went on a different path. And I'll tell everyone who's only listening, check out the website at eainterviews.com for the show notes. There's a live video of this. But you got some merch behind you there that looks pretty good, and that's what I was referring to, the branding that you're literally doing as we speak.
Yeah.
And why are you doing it?
I was like, Mar, is it something that I said? No. So listen, as creatives, I have had so many branding existential crises. I always think of it as like the snake shedding its skin, because when we get attached to a concept, sometimes we're like, no, 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 we have to see it through. And my brand and my voice, the core of it has been the same, but it's gone through many evolutions. And you have to be willing to be like, if it doesn't feel right, tweak it. Before my site was called Talk to Me Taylor, it was called Stripping Down Celebs. So the whole idea when I first started the selfie stick, if you go on my OG videos, you'll see the little stripping down celebs do 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 intro song. And the whole concept of stripping down celebs was to show celebrities in a way that we wouldn't normally see them and get them to really talk about like relationships and sex and all these things, right? A little bit after time had passed and I was kind of jaded, I realized how superficial the world was and how privileged they were, and I had a branding existential crises. And I thought, why am I dedicating my time to these people, like getting to know them more when they already have such huge platforms? Like they're so out of touch. You know, I have a love-hate thing with celebrities, but I'm like, they're so out of touch. Like, why am I devoting my life to hear more about what they think? So it was a real fork in the road because I had put so much work into stripping down celebs. I was so attached to it. I had the graphics, like the whole thing. But again, it just didn't feel right in my core. So I had to shape shift and change it. And then that's what became Talk to Me. So the idea, it wasn't too far off, but the idea of Talk to Me was, we're going to have these conversations and I'm just going to get celebs in on the fold and get them in on the action. I'm not going to make it about them. I'm going to make it about like what we're actually talking about and they can join in, right?
If they want.
Cancel. What's that?
If they want.
Yeah, which they did, which they were mostly.
You're the party, you're inviting them to the conversation.
Exactly. Versus it being like, you know, versus it being, you know, all about you, Oprah. No, it's like, here's what's going on, you know, thoughts on that, right? Instead of all about them. Then obviously when the pandemic happened and the shutdowns, I had to reinvent myself again. And Cancel Me Baby was such a blessing in disguise because I always wanted to get into more controversial and provocative issues with celebrities, but I found so much resistance because of, again, they're publicists, they're people. So my show was my way of like really going to where I always wanted to go. And I thought to myself, I have a voice, I have experience, I don't need them anymore. Same thing. I'll still have them on if they want to join along for the ride, be my guest, but it's not all about you. So it's you have to be willing to like roll with the tide, right? Because we change and we grow as people and as brands too. Like nothing is forever. So, and it's only going to make your brand and your like what you're doing, your endeavors richer, I think.
I have to agree. And what I mean, you had two previous pivots. I don't even like that word. When everyone started using it, oh, we're gonna have a master class on how to pivot. You shut your mouth when you're talking to me. Anyway,
Oh, we love a Wedding Crashers quote.
Everyone just became a pivoting. Okay, behave. You did it not once but twice, and that is a great movie. Have you ever had Vince Vaughn or Owen Wilson on your show?
Oh, but I would love that.
Yeah, same here. So let's put this out there. They can come on both, and
We'll tag team it. Done.
awesome.
Done.
So people are afraid of changing the first time. Like, what if I have to redo the images, and let alone a second time? And it's not that big of a deal. But where do you think that fear comes from? Of I'm going to lose everything I did, or what if they don't like the new thing, or why do you think there's that reservation about just change in general?
Because we're creatives and we get attached. But here's the thing. I'm not going to curse on here. I'm going to be a lady. But no one gives a crap. Like even as a creative, and when I pivoted from stripping down to Talk to Me, I too got caught up in the details. Like, what about this logo color? What about this photo? Like, if the content is that great, no one cares. They're still gonna pick up what you're putting down. It's basically a roundabout way of saying don't judge a book by its cover, but it's true. So, and I think that too, being around creatives and people in LA and writers and producers and all kinds of, all kinds of people in this space, I almost, and I know because I've been there, I almost feel like it's a cop out and like procrastinating from getting to the real work. So it's like, oh, this logo, does this color look okay? And it's sort of like, who cares? And I've changed my logo a million times. Like, in the end, it doesn't change what exactly I was bringing to the table. So don't get caught up in the details because number one, we're our own worst critics and really no one cares. And number two, it'll find its way,
Mm,
and don't procrastinate, just get to the work. Like,
I love that. It's reminded me of when I had my VIP book launch party. I had a training seminar beforehand, and people thought I was joking because sometimes I like to joke. But I had this elaborate thing and all these things going on, this whole place rented out. And I threw a pad of paper and pens on the table. And I'm like, all right, we're going to make some progress. They're like, what the heck's going on? And I'm like, you don't need all these things to get started. Like, if you want
no,
10 more clients, write down 20 people you want to talk to and let's call them.
exactly. You can't, even you mentioned my merch. Do you know how many hours I spent pouring into the right font, the right size? And at the end of the day, I've learned to just be like, it will be, well, it will be, and people will buy it, or like if they're into it, they will buy it or they won't. Like, we get so caught up in the details, and in the end, it really, I mean, I don't know. I just don't think it really is that
So
significant.
you're not against it, and neither am I. And I got to put a little caveat on that. Don't judge a book by its cover, being a publisher. Like, don't have a bad looking cover,
No,
but
exactly. We
don't
still
wait,
want a good
don't wait
aesthetic.
forever. Like, if it don't have
Yeah.
bad content, have the content solid first, but don't spend 10 years doing it like halfway through. I'm looking over at your merch here. I'm trying to figure out what font you did go with. Is that like a Garamond or Helvetica?
Okay. So one of them, because I have a couple variations, like behind me here, the play off of the whole journalism writer thing is almost like a typewriter-ish font.
Mm,
I also have one to be the bold kind of F you cancel me, baby, is impact. And I have another one that is same thing, is a kind of um almost a marriage between the two. It's a fun kind of typewriter-y font. So it all is cohesive and makes sense. I'm not saying to just go rogue. I'm just saying don't put more emphasis on it than need
correct.
be. Like, we got a lot to do.
I'm
So
teasing you just a bit, but I really was. When you said I spent a lot of time on the font, I'm like, I'm trying to see which one you went with. Have you ever considered a custom font like Disney or Coca-Cola or any of them?
Oh,
Hmm?
I actually haven't, again, because I haven't really gotten too, I'm so focused on the work, I haven't gotten too caught up in the details. But
Which just goes to
I wouldn't
prove
be
you don't need to
opposed.
start with that.
What's that?
You don't need to start with that.
Exactly. So many people, I've seen it happen time and time again. They literally will just hemorrhage money hiring a person to do their logo, their graphic, because they're like, no, 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 before I write this book, before I shoot this show, before I do this webinar, I have to have the perfect aesthetic. And I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of the times it's a waste of time and money, but that's just me.
Well, I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
I need to have a perfect website and logos before I can get a client. No, all you need is a client. You don't even need that. Now,
Exactly.
at some point, it's going to help out. But I remember one of my first clients when I went full time. I stepped out of class in college, sold them, walked back in, and then did my work.
Cool.
And then I
I
asked
like
I
that.
asked everyone. I go, all right, how do we build a website? Because I figured I'd probably have a day or two before they start looking around
Do you ever notice? Do you watch Shark Tank?
all the time.
Okay. Do you ever notice on Shark Tank how, by the way, I'm trying to get Mr. Wonderful on my show because I think that is a cancel me baby match made in heaven. I'm still working on that. That ship hasn't sailed. But have you ever
I
noticed that,
actually,
like,
he was in Detroit for a financial
oh,
thing years ago. And if you want to talk about nervous, there was maybe 60 people in the room with us. And everyone, it was like Q&A time, and I got to ask him a question. And I never want to ask something stupid, like to your point of the, who are you wearing? Like, really? you have this opportunity and you're gonna be like, oh, so what
Right.
made you get into that?
Oh, I
Whatever.
can't stand that. Yeah, yeah.
And it took me a few, but I didn't want to hesitate either. Like you don't have all the time in the world, but I remember he answered me and he goes, "That's a very good question." I was like, "Yeah, it was." So, I wish
That's
I
so
had his number. I'd definitely introduce you, but
I know.
again,
Well, see,
thank you for
that's an
mentioning it because yeah, what
well,
is it?
that's an example of what you brought up earlier is if you want someone, if they're out of their league, if it's a long shot. I happen because I'm a fan of his, I follow his assistant on Instagram. So I found her email. I'll periodically email her. Like that's what I mean about just going for it. I don't have a connection to him, but anyway, what I was saying about Shark Tank is have you ever noticed the heartfelt mom and pop, like maybe they're not as polished, maybe they're not as
Correct.
huge, but those are the stories that get the sharks like crying and investing. And then on the other end of it, you have the brands that are all like the perfect logo and the perfect thing, and they're making no money. And they're like, I don't know, Barbara's like, there's holes in this. I don't know. I'm not buying it. Like something's fishy. Right. And it's that kind of idea. Like if there's heart in it, who cares what it looks like? No, you should care. Like I said, don't go rogue. But I think that illustrates that, don't you?
100%. And there's people, there's one that came to mind. Actually, the first episode I ever saw was with Daisy Cakes. Um,
Okay. Yep. Yep.
and again, I just reached out to Kim. So I know I've connected with some of the people from the show. The other one that really stands out to me is Johnny Georges with the tree teepee.
I
Um,
don't remember that one. Okay.
he made this little it was a tree teepee for the orange bushes in Florida to keep them watered and the irrigation and all everything. John Paul DeJoria not sponsored him, invested with him,
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
and he was just so heartfelt and everything, and everyone was telling him no, and they were like, but I think it was Cuban or Mr. Wonderful. One of them was like, we need to be selling this at $20 a piece, and he just wanted to sell them for 9 or 10. His price was 5 or 6, and he's like, it just doesn't have enough profit, and he's
Mhm.
like, we can't do it, and he's like, why do you have it so low? And he was just like tearing up, and he's like, because it's to help the farmers. Like he wasn't thinking like, how do I make billions of dollars?
Ah,
And I
yes.
reached out to him afterwards, like a private message on Facebook through video, because I've always done video even in messaging. Um, and we started talking. So you're absolutely right. Some of these people are so down to earth, and they're just doing it for all the right reasons. That's who I like to surround myself with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think that we can get away from that. Being even doing what I do, being in Hollywood, there have been so many times where I too found myself getting caught up in, why hasn't this taken off? It's so good. It's so unique. Like, why hasn't it got the attention of this network, of that? And there's so many times, even still, where I'd have to bring it down to earth and go, Taylor, why are you doing this? Who are you trying to reach? What are you trying to say? What is your message? And again, we're in a world that I think just almost pulls that out even more because it's all about the display, what I'm putting on social media. Is it flossy and glossy and perfect? And I think a lot of the times, we get away from what we're really trying to do, you know?
I agree, and I'm smirking because I have no what's the word, penchant. I have a penchant for the theatrics, but I never do anything just to do it. I make sure the core is there and then I make it pretty, if you will.
Yep. Yep.
Because I think there is something to be said. I mean, like Hollywood movies, they don't go, oh, we don't need that. I mean, they're doing it at the top levels. And there's something, David Meltzer, I saw he built a whole new studio and everything. Like, you don't need to
Yeah.
do that. So I do think it gives people this false, well, I'm going to start a podcast. What should I do? Oh, go buy a building, sir, ma'am. Go invest in a
Right.
building first. And then
Right.
my other favorite one
Right.
is, so how much soundproofing do you think I need for my room?
That's what I mean with exactly.
Maybe
Like,
get
get
more
a
than a
good mic.
$29 mic. You don't
Ex-
need $3,000 worth of soundproofing. Like maybe spend $39 on the mic for like really.
yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yep. A pitfall, definitely.
So for someone that is they're listening to you going, okay, I'm going to reach out to these people. Is there, they're still scared, but they want to reach out. Is there anything you'd always start with or something similar like a structure? Do you start with hi, hello, sir or madam, or do you personalize it? Like, do you have a process that you go through to ensure that, maybe you're hitting 70, 80, 90%
Mhm.
instead of just hi, come on my show?
Yes and no. And again, it goes into the evolution thing that I talked about earlier. You kind of have to like move and groove depending on what's working. I am the cold pitch queen. I can't wait for the day where I don't know if there will ever be a day in this business where I won't have to, but that is my dream, utopia life of not cold pitching. But sometimes, first of all, keep it short, right? We all have the attention span of an ant, but keep it catchy, try to keep it funny, short, to the point. And again, if I have sent out a massive amount of pitches for something to, for, someone to come on my show, to pick up a clip of somebody saying something really interesting on my show, and I'm not getting any responses, David Meltzer taught me this. Obviously, you are doing something wrong, right? So shapeshift it and change it up a little bit. I remember I was pitching this really cool, unique clip that I had with Dave Portnoy and Girls Gone Wild creator Joe Francis. They didn't come on at the same time, but I had created a really engaging, entertaining clip of them both respectively talking about like misogyny and women and all this. And it was really fascinating. And I had pitched it everywhere, being like, someone has to pick this up because we never hear these guys talking like this. And it's really interesting. And no one responded. So I changed it up and I made literally, I think the pitch was 3 sentences. And it was literally something like, you're not going to see a clip like this today. Here's why, check it out. Here it is. Like that kind of, I had so and so and so and so. They never do podcasts. This is so, you're never going to see something like this. Here it is. And, sure enough, more responses came in. So you have to be willing to, like I said, change it up. As annoying as it is, I know, because I'm impatient and I'm, just want it to be done when it's done. So I get it. But yeah.
Now, do you do anything like tracking? If I reach out to 10 people or so, are 5 of them closing, 8 of them, 2 of them? Do you track any of that or have an idea of how many attempts it takes to book someone, like a 3-to-1 ratio, 2-to-1?
I don't, just because again, I'm pitching so many different things that I feel like it would be I could, I suppose I could keep a little tally or journal or something. Um, but I often find too, it's like a crapshoot. It's luck of the draw. It's random. Like not even with pitching people to come on my show, but pitching op-eds, right? I've written op-eds in USA Today, Huffington Post, Playboy, same idea. Like have a concept, pitch it to all these publications, and it's the same sort of thing as getting someone on your show. I feel like it's very hit or miss. I don't think there's rhyme or reason. So maybe it's not the smartest business strategy. Maybe I should pay a little more attention, but I kind of just go for it and keep at it and keep kind of like drilling away,
Are all of these strictly through email?
I'm ballsier now than I was, but I
Yeah, you seemed so
remember,
shy years ago.
is that facetious?
Ooh, that's the acting face.
Oh, the
Absolutely.
act,
You're like, yeah, uh, you know, I'm more confident now. Yeah, because you were shy to begin with.
right, exactly. No, I know I'm such a wallflower, but it's that thing. Again, like I said, I had a little bit of insecurity about being there, representing my own brand with a selfie stick. But I remember I had an initiative going. It was called We Are More. And I was having celebrities and people on the street. I was so over the Instagram culture. So I was having everybody write down a word that describes them and that people wouldn't normally know just from their image and take a picture with it. At the time, Selena Gomez had come out with this whole thing about how Instagram was so destructive and toxic. So I called her publicist like every day for a week or something. And sure enough, like the assistant's always like, I don't even know how I found their number, but the assistant's like, oh, he's busy. Oh, he's in a meeting. Oh, he'll call you back. So yeah. So I went for it then. And even now with the phone thing, I do mostly email, but I should get back on the phone one. That's even ballsier because it's so much more direct and people have a hard time saying no on the phone.
Okay. I
You
was
know?
honestly asking, I wasn't even thinking about the phone, but if you've talked to hundreds of people, you've probably done 300 pitches, safe to say?
For my show and my site
For
combined
just
and
just
op-eds
all of
and
it. I mean,
everything. Oh, yeah.
I doubt you did
Yeah.
101 and booked 100.
And certainly not, no.
So,
Yeah.
however many are through email, if you just look in the sent, you could pretty easily go, hey, I sent X amount and this is how many came through, and go, hey, not bad. Like, even
Yeah.
if you weren't tracking it, I've done that at times because the early stages of
Yeah.
my business, it was just like, whatever. I'm going to go over here. I was in college. I remember, so you can ask my friends. They
Mhm.
go, I remember you stepping out of class and skipping lectures to go meet clients. Like, absolutely.
That's cool. Yeah.
I wasn't exactly like spearheading Salesforce as like, here's how you use a CRM and articulate everything. Like, if I wrote it down on a napkin, it was a
Right.
good day.
I mean,
So,
if I had to ballpark on the whole, I would probably say out of 10 pitches, maybe you'll find. So this is what's interesting too, is a response versus a yes,
ah,
right? Which we know.
ooh.
But I would say on the whole, maybe 2 to 4 out of 10 have been successful. I feel like 3 is the sweet spot. I don't know.
I was going to give you 2 to 5.
Okay. Yeah.
I was like, I feel like you
Yeah.
probably could close 50-60%. But I know, like, statistically and just getting a hold of people, like,
Yeah. But
business in
I will
general and this
say,
stuff in general, it's like you're working uphill no matter who you are, how good you are. But
yes.
I'm like, you have a lot of experience, so I'm like, it's for sure higher than 20%.
I mean, I was just gonna say, Mario, I think attitude, and this is where I talk about the confidence. It sounds cheesy, but I think it's a big part of it. Even when I was doing my site, no, I certainly wasn't a wallflower, right, on the red carpet with celebrities. But again, I always felt like I had something to prove, because I was the underdog. I wasn't in E News. I wasn't in Access Hollywood. So I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. Whereas now, 5 years later, and how hard I've worked on my show and the momentum and the success and the names I get, I've shifted my attitude. And it's like, my show is the shit. So either not in a cocky way, but like, it's the shit. So roll with or roll out. Like, I'd love to have you, that idea. And I've noticed even since I've been in Nashville, like kind of having that attitude, the success rate I want to say is literally has been like 80%. So,
How much do
you
you
know,
not care?
I'm trying to less and less every day.
Roll in or roll out? I love that.
How much do I not care, Mario? I'm going to be honest, because I've been very honest here as I am on my show. And again, my show is Cancel Me Baby, right? So it's like, I'm going to say what it is we're all thinking. And I can't come after me, cancel me. I dare you. But there's certainly a part of me that cares and that self-censors, and that's everything my show is not about. My show is all about, let's hear it, the clash of ideas, different ideas, without canceling and getting uptight, like let's hear it all. But this culture has made it to where everybody's so uptight, and if you say the wrong thing and you get reprimanded, and that's the point of my show. But I think deep down, I'll notice when I navigate tricky issues, I kind of try to cover my bases. I try to like see this side and then see this side. And I'm trying to let go of that and really give no F's even more. So again, it's a process, but
I can appreciate that. I've said since day one, when people are like, can I say this? And they're like, on the scale of 1 to 10, they're like a 2 or a 3 thing. I'm like, that's not
okay.
even a concern of mine.
Right.
But they're so
Right.
like PC. And
Right.
I actually, so I care. I put a lot into this. I don't want to have to jump through 58 more million hoops. However, I've said since day one, and I have got kicked off for this multiple times. I really hope this doesn't trigger anything, but I really don't care because I have this triple redundant that if any of the platforms, and I'm not going to name a name, but any of the platforms, it's still recorded and I can still live stream somewhere else. So I've engineered it to give the freedom to be able to say whatever and still keep the show going. And it's one of the things I teach for people starting a show or publishing a book is like, you can't really release your creativity. And I'm not saying to go out and just be belligerent about God knows what, unless that's what you want to do. But I think so many people are creative and they want to share something, and there are 2 out of 10, and they think like the whole world's going to fall apart. And I'm like, what a sad state of affairs that you can't even say like, I'm going to go here for lunch because it's like, well, this is going to offend someone here because if they're pro burger versus anti burger versus, oh, you're supporting a restaurant versus local, and then you get someone chiming in going, why aren't you cooking it yourself? And then even if you do cook it yourself, they're like, well, that's not homegrown vegetables, that's a store bought, and you use the wrong store. And I thought you're a real business owner. Why'd you go pick it up if you didn't have it delivered? But the last delivery, it's just like, I am exhausted and I'm still hungry.
They need to come on my show and lighten up and just let it air out. But I think that there's a difference here between caring and caring. And what I mean by that is, because you're like, how much do you care? When it comes to caring about my show and my career, my path, it's almost literally, besides family, it is all I care about. I wake up thinking about it. I go to bed thinking about it. It is my blood, sweat, and tears. It's, I think, what I was put here to do. It comes with obstacles that I have to overcome every single day. And
I can relate to that.
Yes. And, I have big goals and big ambitions. And in that regard, I care sometimes even a little bit too much. People
Immensely.
will be like, immensely. People will say to me, why don't you take a break? Why don't you take a self-care day? I'm like, no days off. I'm like a little drill sergeant. The competition is too fierce. Yeah. But then there's the other side of it is, do I care about the actual, like what I'm saying and all that? Right. And I think, of course you have to care, but it's what we're talking about. It's like, I also think you don't have to care because we can't be tiptoeing.
You have to bring the truth though. Otherwise you are just
yeah.
I'm not, I've never been Camp Apple. I have nothing against them. I just haven't. I have an iPhone I bought for Clubhouse. It's the sole reason I bought it.
Okay.
But I love what Steve Jobs did in the movies I've watched. And there's one that reminds me of, he goes, I don't want just another Me Too product. And I can relate to that because it's like, if you invented a wheelbarrow and someone else invented a wheelbarrow and someone else, well, they didn't invent it, but you got 5 wheelbarrow manufacturers. And if all you're doing is spraying the wheel silver versus blue, it's like, you're not innovating. You're not disrupting. You're not adding extra value to it. So I see that a lot with podcasting. It's like people don't even switch the mics. And then they get the same guest and they ask the same questions in the same order at the same time. And it's like, okay, there's a difference from modeling to like, here's a framework and I'm going to make it my own.
100%. And I, this is something I live by to this day with my show. It's something that I had in my mind when I was doing my selfie stick interviews, especially now. There are so many. I mean, we're on overload with streaming and podcasts and all the things, right? And I always think to myself, why is somebody going to take 40 minutes to listen to what I have to say or to experience this? Like, it has to be, that's what I mean with caring too. Like I will be my own worst critic. It's like Tom Brady watching tape. I'll go back and watch episodes, think about what I can do better, because I'll think to myself, what's going to make someone want to spend an hour with me? Right. It has to be that good. And, that's just so it's too competitive. It's too oversaturated not to.
What are a few ways you found to stand out on top of what you've already mentioned? Like what's something you haven't mentioned that you've consistently done? Tell us your secret. At least one of them.
I mean, I kind of hinted at this, but constantly, even still, going out of my comfort zone. Even still, I was just having this conversation the other day. Like, I really started being a pop culture connoisseur, everything pop culture related. And I remember as my show evolved and politics were really getting heated and hot and heavy, and I remember sort of like dabbling, being like, "Oh, I don't know, is that too political for me? I'm not a political expert," and all this. And there are so many topics and people and things time and time again, literally up until this day. Again, earlier I had mentioned the episode I did about Deshaun Watson in the NFL. That was out of my comfort zone. Episodes I've done talking about, when it comes to COVID and, race. I've had episodes about race, and I'll tell my guests, I literally will be like, I'm sweating right now. Like, this is not a fun time. Like, we are not having fun. This is out of my comfort zone. Constantly pushing myself. And it's never not been fruitful, and it's never not expanded my skill set. And now I feel like I can talk about all these things like with flying colors, like no big deal at all. Abortion, like there's so many topics that I really had to step up to the plate. And even before sitting down to shoot, I'll be with my microphone and I'll be like, and then just do it. And sure enough, I feel like those are the ones where I'll have listeners reach me being like, thank you for doing that. Thank you for saying this. Oh my God, I needed that. So I can't stress enough, like really just pushing yourself. Because you'll figure it out, even to this day, guests I have, I'm like, are they out of my league? Is this thing I'm doing out of my league? And just going for it, stepping up to the plate, like I said.
I think that's a real good point, because everyone has these different levels of, this makes me nervous, it's outside my comfort zone, should I do it? I think that's the, what's it called, syntax, the thought process, whatever you want to call it. And it doesn't matter what the industry is. Now, I would say, by the nature of who you're talking to and what you're talking about, you're like so far beyond the norm that no one should even think about it, because you said the key there. You're doing it respectful. I think everyone should be able to share their opinion, whether you agree with it or not, but in a respectful way to have a discussion. Otherwise, there is no discussion. Nothing gets solved.
Exactly. And putting yourself, I think, in situations that are also out of your comfort zone. Even here's an example, and this encapsulates everything we talked about today: pitching, branding yourself, holding your own, creating opportunity, going outside of your comfort zone. I was invited. There's a big wine festival happening here this weekend in Nashville. Okay, mind you, I haven't slept. I've been running around like crazy, have been like furnishing an apartment, don't even know anybody here, but like it's chaos. And I thought, I was approached, basically, they were like, do you want to be like an influencer type person for this festival? Now, the influencer thing isn't really my thing. Like, I'm a podcast host and a journalist first and foremost. Like, my Instagram feed is not flossy and cohesive. It just does what it wants. So I thought, how do I take this opportunity and make it my own? So I ended up I thought, how cool would it be to like shoot a show on site from the festival? Again, something
nice.
I've never done before. So I ended up getting on a phone call with the creator of the festival, and basically he's giving me my own table and tent this weekend at the festival to shoot my show, to interview people there and influencers there. And I'm nervous about, it's only Tuesday, and I'm nervous about that because I'm like, I have never done it before. Again, I'm not representing a New York Magazine or an Us Weekly. I'm representing myself. I have to go, literally, I created a Cancel Me Baby banner at Office Depot. I have to go pick up, like, it is grassroots. And even though like I've been at the Emmys, I've been at the Oscars, like somehow having my own booth at a festival is more it's nerve-wracking, but it's exciting. So that's what I mean.
Congratulations. That is exciting.
You.
And I would have to say, having done booths before, it's because it's all on you. Same thing with an event. It's one thing to show up and go,
yeah,
I'm telling you stuff. All right, enjoy, audience. It's another thing to go, okay, I need to tell you stuff. I need to make sure it's running. The people doing it, there's a lot more going on that you're responsible for. But what just occurred to me is you still get the influencer status, but now they'll be coming to you. So it's actually higher than that. And from a
Yep.
positioning play, it always is more impressive when you have your own show or book.
Exactly. And do you know how much easier it would have been if I was like, sure, I'll sign up for your influencer program and post about the festival and make a buck and try to sell tickets. But to me, what would get more mileage? What would make more sense? What would be better experience? And so this is, again, out of my comfort zone. It's 10 times more work, but, I'm looking forward to it too. So yeah.
You should be. Are you going to do any live streaming from there?
I don't know. The live stream situation has not been kind to me in the past. We have a toxic relationship. I feel like when I'm trying to do lives, it'll like freeze and quit and be a hot mess. So I haven't decided quite yet. I might just shoot regularly and post later. So we'll see.
So, depending on your phone network, some are more reliable and stronger than others, but you may be able to get access to the Wi Fi. And if you're doing a run and gun thing, I could tell you about some mics that sound like this, but from your phone. And
Okay.
you've already done selfie stick stuff. So,
Yep. All
it's
one
just
woman
one extra
show.
button. I tell everyone that's like, I don't know about live streaming. I'm like, I'm looking at it right now. It's one extra button to go from recording
I
to
know.
live.
I know. I
I'd
gotta
like
get
to
back
see
to
it.
it.
Selfishly, I'd like for you to live stream it so I can see it this weekend too.
That would be fun. I'm definitely thinking about it for sure. So stay tuned because
But
I know
either
this
way, it
interview is
sounds
going
like
to
you're
come
going to
out later,
record it.
but what's that?
Either way, it sounds like you're going to do segments and record them.
Definitely. So yeah, bringing Cancel Me Baby to the wine festival. We're going to see how it goes.
So, as far as the name of the show, why did you unapologetically not give in to any PC correctness? Is this something you started the last few years, or have you been like this your whole life?
I've always pretty much have been like this. I always kind of marched to the beat of my own drummer, didn't do things how everyone else was doing them. And again, it was really freeing because I felt like when I worked for all these publications, I always I try to put my spin on it the most that I could. This sounds very millennial, but you know, I always felt like I had to talk in someone else's voice, someone else's vision, what the brand wanted. And with this, it's just wholeheartedly me, like what I wanted to bring to the table and all of that. So,
Good for you.
yeah, the name is like the show. It's basically like pull no punches and what you see is what you get. And originally, coming up with the name was challenging. I was like, is it going to put people off? Because the show does, it's very thoughtful and it has a lot of heart. It's not just like pissing people off left and right. But it is politically incorrect, So I thought what
What
captures that,
isn't?
but exactly, literally what isn't. But yeah, I thought what captures that, what's catchy. I remember when I was conceptualizing, I was thinking of names that was something like a play off of journalism or being like a blonde who's also really smart, like that dichotomy. So but I'm glad that it landed where it did. I think it's gonna be timeless because cancel culture just seems to not want to quit. So
Yeah, and you have catchy titles on the episodes too, like the reference you just made. The one I'm thinking of is, "Does this bikini make my brain look big?"
yes, they're very sassy. And because writing is my very first love. So I try to bring the two, marry the two together. So I try to come up with really sassy, clever, titles and descriptions. And again, it's not like what everyone's doing. You talk about the details, right? People always say like SEO optimize and make the episode title like this keyword and this keyword for the algorithm. And I feel like I've played that game and I've tried to play the game so many times that at
You're
this
like,
point I'm like,
screw it.
no, it's going to be a fun, catchy, sassy title and it'll find the right audience.
Yeah, I can relate to that more than you know. I was just telling one of my author clients, like for stuff I'm working on, it's like I want to follow all the rules, but my natural state is not. So I'm somewhere in the middle with you there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the algorithms, the SEO, there's just so much like if you just wake up and say, I want to help someone, it's like, okay, now you got to follow 485 rules to abide by everyone else's
Really.
platform. It's like, seriously, just call them, email them.
It's
I'm
when
here.
I
I
was
can help you with
yeah.
XYZ. Do you want help?
Yeah. When I was doing my selfie stick interviews, I was trying to like play the game and maximize my Instagram. Like, what time of day? What consistency? What should it look like? What should the hashtags be? And I just am like, I'm over that. I'm like, who has it? That's like a whole other, thing. So,
My favorite years ago was email broadcast. What's the best day to send an email? Tuesday. So then everyone starts sending on Tuesday. And then within about a week or two, it's no longer the best day to send an email because you get 40 of them.
right. Right.
So some of these things, I'm glad you're talking about just thinking through it. Like what makes best for you? What's congruent? You said multiple times this was at my core. I had a similar epiphany within a week of launching my show because I launched this daily. But I've been promoting take off nights and weekends, enjoy it with family and friends, for years. What's the point of business if all you're doing is working 24/7 and have no freedom? And I'm like, yeah, doing daily show, live stream video, all these things. And like day 6 rolls around and I'm like, no, day 7 or 8, because I launched it on a Friday and it was like, I think within 3 days, as a matter of fact, it was like Saturday, Sunday. I'm like, I feel horrible. Like, I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
wake up on Saturday thinking I have to promote this, but I don't want to not do it justice and
Right.
not promote it. And then driving home from church on Sunday, I'm like, I
Mhm.
really don't want to be emailing you going, oh, you're empress. Like, really? Like,
Right.
you're probably not around doing any business stuff either. And within
Right.
3 days to a week, I was like, I am not doing this. So I
Yep.
changed it. And
Yep.
it works for me.
There you go. Everyone has their thing. Everyone has their strategy.
So, for anyone listening, before we thank our sponsor, if they are afraid of doing something, is there any magic trick or anything like you said, I have to step outside my comfort zone? Is there let me put on a song to get pumped up or have a cold glass of iced tea or just run around? Is there anything you do to get in the zone?
Couple things. I love having a like little boost. I love like a coffee. And even still, before I shoot shows, whether it's solo or with a guest, I like to kind of like map out where I'm going, take my little notes, kind of map it out in my brain and then kind of not think about it. I
Mm,
like to get ready and have my coffee, listening to my headphones, listen to like a fun, upbeat playlist, and then just sit down and do it. And it's kind of that idea, like, how ideas come to you when you're in the shower or when you're
yeah,
driving. It's like, I notice that sometimes too, even when I have a hard time coming up with an intro for a show or what the title should be. If I do what I just said, sure enough, it'll come like that when I'm not trying so hard. So anything to kind of get out of your head, give you a little boost,
just relax a
whatever.
little.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for that. One more
Yeah.
quick question before we thank our sponsor. You saw it earlier.
Sure. I love the wheel. Wheel of Mario.
Whatever. It's the wheel of whatever.
Wheel of whatever. I like that. The
So this is a
WOH.
this is an interesting thing. Do you want yellow or
Oh
black?
no, WOW. What's that?
Yellow or black?
Yellow.
Ooh, good color.
Yeah, I think so. There are a lot of choices, but it's the one I had to go with.
So
Okay.
yellow are the extremely personal questions.
I'm down for it. Hence
Bl-
my show.
black is all business.
Okay. Of
I'm just
course.
teasing. I just made that up. And that is
Oh.
why I was originally going to have like topics on there and I thought, you know what? One, it solves my naming problem because if it's whatever, I don't need to worry about where it lands because some people I've asked them like, where would you travel to? Because I could tell they'd get nervous if I'm like, do you think the moon landing was a conspiracy? Like, and there's
Yeah.
people that have very politely declined stuff until we're off
Yeah.
air. But I have a
Yeah,
feeling with
exactly.
you,
What
I
are your
can
thoughts
ask
on
you whatever.
CRT? Like no pressure.
What's
Yeah,
that?
no, exactly. Oh no, I was saying like something light, like what are your thoughts on CRT? No. But they're like sweaty. No, yeah. Go for
So
it.
you have, this is so surreal because there's time one thing that I go to, if I can tell someone's in between, I go, who's someone you'd love to interview? Who's someone you'd love to have on your show? Who's someone
Sure.
whether they're an author or a podcast host. You've interviewed a lot of cool people. So I'm not even going to ask you the travel thing. That's interesting, but it seems like you like to travel, and you are. I want to ask you, not even the personal stuff. I was going to, maybe it's a personal business question. What is something where do you see your business going over the next 2 years? And what's the biggest thing Expert Authority World could do to help you?
Why, gee, thank you for that. My gosh, that question just got me excited, and I did not
Not
know what to
nervous?
expect. No, this is what I was saying that I
Oh,
go to bed thinking about, wake up thinking about. It is a
it
24/7
was
deal.
supposed to be a little nerve-wracking,
Oh,
but I
oh,
did
oh
nonchalantly
no. Okay, don't
earlier
get
s-
any
I
ideas.
did nonchalantly earlier say, "Well, tell us a secret you've never said before," and you answered that calmly. But honestly,
Oh.
like, what are the things that freak you out personally in business? What's your biggest worry? And if I had like a magic wand, how could we get rid of it for you?
Well, I really appreciate that. I mean, I have, like I said, big goals and vision for what I'm doing to really be a taste maker, a thought leader, right? In culture. Kind of before we hopped on here, I was saying my long-term goal is to almost be like a Bill Maher, but with boobs and a little more brain build. No, but that idea. And something that is a fear of mine because I'm so on it. I'm a one-woman show, I'm an entrepreneur through and through. Sometimes, again, we're in this world of everyone comparing. Am I up to par with this person? Oh my God, that person. I've had people say to me, even as of late, I'm looking at your stuff and I feel like crap and you're so on it. And here I am going, I'm looking at so and so stuff. So sometimes I get a little, and I think this is so normal in business and publishing, whatever endeavors you're doing, to feel like, what if I miss my window? What if somebody
Mm,
else writes that bestseller, but I was writing it first? Like, what if, and even still, I've had to kind of bring myself down and say, you know what, this is like maybe a little hippie spiritual, whatever, but it'll be how it'll be when it's supposed to, right? Like you can only control so much and it'll find its way. So what, in what you guys can do is just spreading any help to spread the message of what I'm doing. People who want to be a part of it, people who want to listen, be part of the community, be a guest, like anything like that is huge because like I said, it's a full-time endeavor with big long-term uh vision and goals. So yes,
excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that, and I'm looking forward to seeing more because I know you're just getting started with all of it.
I feel like that while I've been doing it so long, and like we were talking about earlier, have reinvented it so many times in a weird way, it feels almost like a new, with the move and all of it and the brand, it feels like a new lease on life, new chapter. Like I said, more confidence and like assurance than ever, and readiness to bring this shiz to the next level and make it explode. So I so appreciate that. I feel like that in many ways. Yeah. It's like a new chapter, no pun intended for all the authors. So
I like that. And for
yes.
anyone listening, as far as with business, I've said this time and time again. I feel like I need something new, but it's so applicable when I do interviews and speak on stage and people go, "When did you start your business?" I love going, "What time? When?"
Exactly.
Because it's like,
Yeah.
what did the business start when I got the idea, or was it when I screwed up
Right.
19 times and decided to
Mhm.
keep going the 20th?
Enough said.
And you're a perfect example of that. So
Yeah.
this is exciting. Is this your
It
first interview for your new starting point?
Yes, that's why I was saying this is a big moment for the EA community, the EAGBT plus. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's a big deal for us because this is like in Mario's
Freaking me out.
eyebrows are fall flying off his head.
This whole time I've been fine, and I love everyone, but
I waited until the 11th hour. I know. No, but it is. It's the very first interview in my new digs, my new stomping grounds here in Nashville. So I'm excited about that. Off to a great start, thanks to you guys. So
well, I'm happy to hear that. We are going to thank our sponsor and come back for the imperfect action round. You've heard me say every business needs a book, including yours, and it's true. And that's why I'm launching my new book at eapublishingmethodbook.com so you can learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. But you know what? Don't take my word for it. Take it from a few of my authors, like Lori.
And I went from having an idea and a possibility to actually getting my book published.
Or Catherine.
Thank you for making my mom #1 best-selling author.
Or Mary Alice.
What he got done for me in 3 days regarding my book launch, unmanageable.
John Cody.
I've worked with Mario over the phone and online, and he's been very helpful in getting me where I needed to go with promoting my books.
Rocio.
There's no way in the world I would have been able to do this with somebody else. I've attempted it in the past. It didn't serve me. As a matter of fact, I ended up more frustrated than anything. So this has been a very seamless process.
Adele.
If you're looking for an amazing business coach, I highly recommend Mario Ficini.
Or Bill Benner.
I can't make a higher recommendation than to work with Mario Ficini. He has been great for me, and right now I won't work with anybody else except for Mario.
Hey, their words, not mine. Visit eapublishingmethodbook.com to get your copy, and I look forward to hearing your transformation as our next video success story. Once again, that's eapublishingmethodbook.com. And we are back with the imperfect action round. Taylor, are you ready to take in for perfect action?
I think so.
All right, I got 3 questions for you.
Okay.
Rapid fire, 60-second or less. What is
Love
the
it.
fastest path to the cash?
Doing it. Go. Stop holding yourself back. Stop second guessing. Stop being in your head. Just go do it. Do the thing. Ask the person to be on your show. Ask the people to publish your book. Go, go, go.
Excellent. Number 2, what is the biggest problem you see your prospects making and the fastest way for them to fix it?
Like we talked about today, getting in your own way. You're your own biggest critic. I've been there. I'm still there at times. And the only person truly getting in your way is you. And I truly mean this when I say no one cares more. Like you think everyone's looking with a microscope. They're not. They're busy living their own lives. And everyone these days are narcissists, as we know. So you are the only thing getting in your own way. Again, just go. Excellent.
And number 3. If you had the opportunity to do it all over again, if you had the opportunity to, am I using my words right? If you had the opportunity to do it all over again, what would you change from the beginning?
Is it cliche to say nothing?
No.
I really think nothing. I think about this a lot. I think all the times when I was down and out, I thought I hit rock bottom. I'd be crying after a bad carpet incident, whatever it is. Or like I said, maybe I wasn't as confident earlier on in my career, or was a little bit insecure about it. All of it led me to the woman and entrepreneur and host, all of it with the vision that I am today. I wouldn't change any of it for a second.
Good for you. Good for you. Being a publisher, I always like to ask people about books. Is there one you'd recommend to Expert Authority World?
Oh man, that's a good one. So I had him on my show recently, Justin Rezvani. I'm not sure how up on the whole like crypto Web3 space your audience is, but he wrote a book called Unapologetic Freedom, all about, and like I said, he was on my show. Yeah. Okay. So all about the state of all of it, how we communicate and the web and internet and censorship in our thoughts. Yeah, that's been interesting, and it's current and it's fresh and innovative, and again, has vision. So
excellent. Well, thank you for that. Where would you like people to learn more?
Okay. Learn more, everybody. Get in on the action. Like we had said today multiple times, my show is called Cancel Me Baby. It's everywhere. Joe Rogan, look out. It's on Spotify, YouTube, iHeart, all the good things. And the selfie stick interviews that Mario's talking about, that's my site, talktometayler.com. Same thing on YouTube. And if you just Google me, you want something of, a fresh point of view, I've written numerous op-eds. Like I said, I've done a lot of reporting. So find me there. And I hate to say this it's unwilling, but most of my action is over on Instagram. Talk to me, Taylor. So come be part of it.
Well, thank you so much for everything you've shared. I definitely enjoyed it, and you got me not nervous about any of the questions, but when you're like, you gotta take the action, do more with it, and I'm like, can I hire someone? Like,
No, Mario, you gotta do it.
I got a lot going on. Like, I'm trying to get stuff off my plate, but there are some doors and goals and stuff I'm striving for. But so thank you for that encouragement. It's been a real pleasure.
Absolutely. It's been such a pleasure. And thank you so much. So appreciate it.
All right. Expert Authority World, we have another great episode here today. I'll see you on the next one. Yes, I got it right. And I'll see you on the next one. Have a great day, and God bless. You're already the expert, but have you transformed your expertise into a tangible asset that will generate qualified leads while increasing profit for you 24/7? And if so, how well are you promoting it? With my new book, The Expert Authority Effect Publishing Method, I take you through my process step by step. Visit eapublishingmethodbook.com today to learn the 7 steps to publish and promote your nonfiction lead and profit-generating business book in 8 weeks. Visit eapublishingmethodbook.com to get started now. Once again, that's eapublishingmethodbook.com. Thanks for listening to today's episode. I would love to know what you enjoyed most from it. If you haven't done so already, I invite you to connect with me on my new LinkedIn. You can go to it directly at eainterviews.com/LinkedIn. Once again, that's eainterviews.com/LinkedIn. Lastly, check out the full eainterviews.com site for complete show notes, the full interview video experience, links to the resources we mentioned, and more. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you on the next one.